Hello yogis, my name is Kelly. So I thought I would make a shorter little video specifically targeting hamstrings. So I got asked a lot, how can I lengthen my hamstrings? So hamstrings are the back of the legs here. And a lot of people find restrictions there for a number of different reasons. So if you're an athlete, if you're a runner, if you bike, any of these things tend to actually shorten the hamstrings, not lengthen them. And on the flip side of that, if you sit a lot and your hamstrings are never ever lengthened because you're always sitting or driving in cars, that can be another reason that you can have restrictions in your hamstrings. So hamstrings, a little disclaimer, you do want to be very cautious with them. It's a very large muscle group. It's also kind of an important one. I have been lucky enough to never have a hamstring injury, but I have plenty of friends, especially yoga friends, that have overdone it and torn or damaged their hamstrings. It takes a long time to heal from this. So the idea that I want you to have in your head is that you're really going to take your time with your hamstrings. You're going to come into maybe an edge of intensity, but don't take it past that. You never want to feel any pulling, certainly not any tearing or ripping, and you're not trying to force anything here. Your body will always work better with you if you take a little bit of time into this. So it is important to lengthen your hamstrings. It's that proverbial, everyone's saying, well, I don't go to yoga because I can't even touch my toes. A lot of people can't, and you don't need to touch your toes to go to yoga. It's the journey in learning how to go down that way and to start to go towards that you actually learn to do the yoga. So whether or not you ever touch your toes is absolutely irrelevant. It doesn't mean you're a better or worse yogi if you can reach your toes or not. So I am going to use some props for today's practice if you have them at home. A yoga strap or any kind of a scarf or a belt will work nicely. I am going to use a blanket a little bit later on, and blocks are always nice to have. But if you don't have them, just something to push your hands into will work too. So I will try to go through this a little bit quickly, so I'll probably just show you one side of each posture or asana that you can take to target the hamstrings. But know that you can hold, obviously you want to take both sides. And I'll give you ideas of how long you can hold the postures because I'm not going to hold them that long. Okay, so let's start out on our backs. So have your strap somewhere near you and lower down onto your back and just plant the feet onto the earth. And we're going to start right away with a lengthening of the hamstring. So we're going to kick that left leg up towards the sky. And you can always start with your right leg if you would prefer, it doesn't matter. We're going to loop the strap around the bottom of the foot and hold onto the strap in either hand. Now know that you can also hold onto the strap with just the left hand if you would like. So right away you're going to start to feel that lengthening in the hamstring. Now the more you flex the toes in towards the face, the more it's going to activate the back of the leg. And that's important. So we're not just working to lengthen here. We also want to work to strengthen these muscles. So from here, to take it a little deeper, you can lengthen your right leg out. And you can use just a little bit of leverage to pull that leg in towards the face. But again, I call it a gentle encouragement most of the time instead of pulling, because I don't want to encourage you to yank. This is more of a yin-like pose, so you can always let the elbows come down to rest, or you can even tie the strap around the back of your body to hold your leg up for longer. You can hold this pose for 5 minutes if you would like even. Beautiful. If your back of your leg is a little bit more open and your arms are long, you can also take peace fingers to big toe and take Pada Gustasana, Utthita style, Supta Pada Gustasana. So on the back, big toe pose. And make sure you keep that left hip down, but this will just take it just a little bit more deeper and intense. All right, you would take the other side of that. So you bend into the right knee, take the other side, but I'm going to show you the next thing we're going to do. Cross the left ankle over the right thigh. So this is supine pigeon pose. And from here, bring that shape in towards your body. Reach your arms in between your legs and hold on behind the back of your right thigh. Once you do that, you can bring your shoulders back down to the earth and kick your right leg up to the sky. Again, you're flexing those right toes in towards the face. So I'm targeting the back of my right hamstring here. So I also have some opening in the left hip and the inner groin, which is actually important for the hamstring as well. So again, if you gently encourage that shape in towards your body, a lot of times you'll feel it even more in the back of the leg. Holding that for as long as you'd like. Undo the legs, hug the knees into the chest for a moment. Next, Viparita Karani, legs up the wall. So just kicking the legs up towards the ceiling. Flexing the toes towards the face. And again, if you want a little bit more support here, because this is actually taking it into the core too, and you want to hold it longer, place something underneath the hips. So whether it's a blanket or a block or a bolster, or do this posture literally with your legs up the wall. So you just send your legs up the wall, and you can stay here for even 15 minutes. So again, this is lengthening out the back of the legs. We're going to find different orientations of ways to do this today, because you'll find in certain positions you can get into things quite a bit deeper. So that's where you're meeting restrictions. There can be restrictions in a lot of places other than the hamstrings that keep you from being able to lengthen the hamstrings. All right, so begin to rock up and down a couple of times. We're going to come up into a tabletop position. You could take a round of cow and cat here just to kind of loosen the spine. And then as you're ready, you're going to lift your right leg up. So the right heel is even with the right glute, and you're going to flex the toes again. So imagine that you could push your foot into a wall behind you. So you're really lighting up that leg. All 5 toes are pointing towards the floor. Now again, working on a little bit of strength here. Begin to pulse that right heel up. Maybe just like 5 pulses here. Beautiful. And then once you've had enough of that, it doesn't take much. Step your right foot in between your hands. So this is a low lunge, and know that you can have, I'm gonna grab my other block, know that you could have blocks here underneath your hands for support. Try to make sure that the knee is not going in front of the ankle, so we don't want to cause shearing here in the knee. We want that knee stacked right above the ankle. So our target area here right now is the front of the left hip, which is nice to have, but we really want the hamstrings. So in order to get the hamstrings, we're going to walk the hands back and straighten that front leg. So this is half monkey splits or Ardha Hanumanasana. And again, flex those toes in towards the face to feel that a little bit deeper. Now look back and make sure you can't see your left toes. That's just a little small detail. And then the way to feel this a little bit deeper is to actually lift the chest up. So we want to lengthen the spine first. So lengthen it up and then begin to fold in a little bit more. That will help you to feel it a little bit more intensely. So for me right now, I feel it right behind the back of my right knee. So I'm kind of easing in towards my edge, and I feel intensity, but I'm not taking it to any point where I feel I'm going to overdo it. The other thing that you can do here is take a little bit of dynamic movement back and forth. So kind of dynamically moving a couple of times in a shape before you hold it can help your body to be talked into things a little bit more. I really like dynamic movement before I hold in stillness. So I usually take 3 rounds of dynamic movement and then at least 5 breaths in the actual shape. But again, any of these can be held just a little bit longer. Beautiful. Rebend into that front knee. You can set the blocks to the side. You can kick the right leg back and shake it out a little bit. You would do the other side, but we're going to move on. Walking the hands a little bit forward, tucking the toes, lifting the hips up. This is downward facing dog, Adho Mukha Svanasana. Now bend into your knees to begin and let your tailbone come up a little bit higher to the sky. Then you can begin to straighten those legs a bit and really start to drop those heels down towards the earth. So think about pulling the kneecaps up a little bit. That engages the front of the leg to the quads, and that'll help you to stretch into the back of the legs or the hamstrings. From here, again, some dynamic movement. You can come up high onto the toes, and then as you exhale, drop the heels down. Maybe do that a couple of times. You could always have a gentle bend in your knees here. A lot of times that actually helps you to get a little deeper into the hamstrings versus locking the legs out. All right, let's move on. Let the heels come down. Walk your hands back towards your feet. Uttanasana, forward fold. So a bend in the knees here. Attach the stomach to the thighs, so you might have to bend your knees even more. Really fold here. Even imagine that you could fit your knees into your armpits. So we're preparing the hamstrings here to stretch. Now once you're here, maybe hands are down on the earth, maybe they're on a block, but you still have that bend in the knees. Now, trying to keep your stomach and thighs connected, you can start to try to straighten your legs. You can see my legs are really shaking here. The mistake people make a lot of times is they just immediately lock out their knees and almost hyperextend them. What it does is it takes it out of the hamstrings and it takes it into the lower back, and that's not our target area. So know that bending your knees actually helps you to get deeper into the hamstrings. I know it sounds counterintuitive, but I promise it actually works. So keeping the belly attached to the thighs. Know that you can cross your arms here, maybe hold on to opposite ankles to use some leverage to lengthen down. So you're trying to bring the crown of the head down as you're lifting your tailbone up a little higher. A little deeper, you can wrap your arms around the back of your legs and then hold on to opposite shins and begin to straighten the legs and use that leverage. Beautiful. Let's go ahead and release that. We're going to take halfway lift, Ardha Uttanasana. So slide your hands onto your shins and lift your shoulders up even with your hips. Now a lot of times in yoga this becomes a throwaway posture, but it's not. We're really working on strengthening those hamstrings here. So lengthening the spine away, collarbones are wide, light up the back of the legs, and then exhale and fold. Let's do that 2 more times. Inhale, Ardha Uttanasana, halfway lift. I still have a bend in my knees. Exhale and fold. 1 more time. Inhale, Ardha Uttanasana, halfway lift. Stay here for a moment, and then bring your hands onto your hips and slowly rise up. Beautiful. You can lift your arms up over the top of the head if you ever get a little lightheaded or dizzy coming up. And then we're going to step to the side of the mat, or the middle of the mat. We're going to take a wide-legged forward fold. So this is called Prasarita. So again, getting into the back of the legs here. So step your feet apart. We're usually looking for a pretty wide stance here, and you can widen the stance as you go down or even make it a little narrower. One of the important little tidbits of alignment is you want your feet to either be parallel or pigeon-toed. So pigeon-toed is toes in, heels out. And what that does is creates space for the sacrum. We don't want any pinching in the sacrum. When you bring your heels in and your toes out, opposite, like goddess stance, that if you would go to fold forward from here, that's not good. That actually pinches the sacrum. So parallel or pigeon-toed, toes in, heels out. Hands onto the hips, and then keep a long spine and begin to fold forward. Stay halfway down for a moment. Again, we're creating strength, and maybe you have a little bit of bend in the knees. Lengthening out from the crown of the head, and then eventually surrendering down. So the hands can come down onto the earth underneath the shoulders. You could have the hands on blocks. You could bring the forearms onto blocks, and from here, know that you can toe heel your legs a little bit farther apart to maybe come in just a little bit deeper. You can relax the head and neck down. If I'm holding this one for a little longer, I like to put a block underneath my forehead. This supports my neck. And just play with this a little bit here. So you can kind of rock forward and back a little bit. There can always be that micro bend in the knees. Bringing the weight forward and engaging the fronts of the legs, the quads. So imagine that you could pull your kneecaps up towards your hips. That'll actually help your hamstrings to lengthen. So I've been talking about the fact that we're strengthening our hamstrings along with lengthening them. There is an old wives' tale that people think that when they strengthen muscles, it automatically shortens them. But there is a way to strengthen muscles and lengthen them at the same time. So if you think about it with a rubber band, if you constantly are just lengthening it, what happens? It breaks and snaps. So we don't want to just lengthen here. We want to bring strength into it as well. So we're strengthening just as much as we're lengthening, so then when we have that longer muscle, it's also a stronger muscle, keeping us safer in our bodies. Beautiful. And from here, bring your hands underneath your shoulders. And now we are going to turn our heels in and toes out just a little bit. And we're going to bend into each opposite knee one at a time. So this one, just kind of back and forth a couple of times. You can call this high skater. And if your hips allow it, you can come down into Skandasana. So I'm letting my right heel come up in this variation because this leg is not my target area right now. This leg is. So I'm thinking more about this leg, and I'm really flexing my toes up towards my face. So this can be Skandasana, but again, you can be a little bit higher. You're still getting that length in the back of the leg. Take it to the other side. Again, flexing those toes is what really makes the difference. Beautiful. And then gently come back to center, parallel the feet. We're going to find a halfway lift. From here, we'll come right into our next shape, and it's going to be Parsvottanasana, or pyramid pose. So look towards your left toes and walk your hands to frame your left foot. Take a little bit of a bend in that left knee, and you're going to step your right foot in just a little bit. I'll show you both views of this. But you want all 10 toes to be pointing forward, but know that your heels do not have to be lined up here. You can have your feet a little bit farther apart if that works better for your hips. Blocks underneath the hands can be really key here. So again, this is a really big stretch for the back of both legs. So from here, you kind of lengthen forward, maybe pressing your hands into your blocks, and then start to fold in. So you can take a bend in the front knee if you'd like. That'll take it a little bit less intensely into the front hamstring, but you'll still feel it in the back. But if it's okay for you, try to lengthen out both legs. And again, no, you're not looking for that hyperextension. And from here, you could hold this for a little bit longer, maybe 5, 10 breaths. If you want to take it right into the next shape, walk your hands a little bit forward and then begin to lift your right leg up. So this is called standing splits. So you're walking your hands back to frame your front foot, which is our left one right now. So again, we're going to flex those right toes, or the right foot. So flexing the toes in towards the face. The hip stays down, and you're really going to feel this intensely in the back of your left leg. So if you'd like to feel it even more, bend your heel in towards your glute and then kick your leg up a little bit higher. And you might feel it a little bit in the stand in the kicking leg as well. So just take a couple of breaths here. Beautiful. And then gentle bend in that front knee to step the feet together. And then kind of shake it out. And you would take both of those on the second side. So you could just step your left foot back, right foot forward, take pyramid into standing splits, and then be sure and shake it out afterwards. Beautiful. And then we're going to come down onto the floor and take a couple more stretches on the floor. So Janushirasana can be a great one. And the important thing for these seated postures, especially in my own practice, I find that I need to elevate my hips a little bit. If I don't, I tend to round the spine and I posteriorly tilt my hips. When I do that, I don't get into my hamstrings. We're looking for what's called an anterior tilt in your pelvis. So you kind of want to think about sticking your booty out. And in order to do that, a lot of us have to sit on a prop. So for my one-legged postures, I don't have to do that, but once I get into a posture with both legs out, that's when I'm gonna do it. So I'll show you Janushirasana here. So you're kicking one leg out straight and bringing the other foot into the inside of the thigh. And again, those flexing of the toes towards the face will start to light up the back of the hamstring. Walk your hands to frame your outstretched leg, and you can begin to fold forward any amount. Now, just like I said before, if you round the spine here, it's not going to take it as much into the back of the leg. You're going to feel it into lengthening the back side of the body and the back, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but our target area is our hamstring. So to feel it a little bit more intensely, lift up and then walk the hands forward to keep the chest lifted. And then oftentimes you're going to feel that a lot more. Again, we're not taking it to a point of pain. Just taking it to the edge of sensation. Beautiful. And then you would walk your hands back up and you could switch out to the other side. Know that you can always take your hand behind your knee to help your knee in if it's starting to feel a little bit fatigued. Next shape I'm going to show you is Paschimottanasana, also called caterpillar in yin. So for this one, I am going to sit on a blanket. You could also sit on a block, you can sit on a bolster or a pillow, whatever you have. So I'm going to elevate my hips a little bit. I'll also show you something that you can do if you don't have anything to elevate your hips. So in doing this, it's going to allow me to fold forward a little bit more with my spine lengthened versus when I don't have something and I round the spine. So again, I begin by really lifting up here and I really flex those toes in towards the face. And I begin to walk my hands forward in the amount. And again, I might not come very far. When I keep my spine long, you can see that I don't. I need restriction pretty quickly. So this is the same shape that we took when we were in forward fold or Uttanasana. This is also the same shape that we took when we took legs up the wall. So we're just taking it in different orientations. And you might find, oh, this one I can't go as far. That's normal for a lot of people, and it's because you're sitting, and it's because you're reaching maybe compression in the fronts of your hips as you're folding. So different orientations, but with the same target area. One is not better than another. It's just different ways to get into the same shapes. If you don't have a prop, I want to show you one thing really quick, and this can be nice even if you do to take this variation. So you can kind of move the flesh away from underneath you and bend into the knees a little bit here. And then take the fingertips down by the knees or down by the side, depending on what your arm length is. And then start to imagine that you're pulling your heels back in towards your body. So you're kind of lighting up the back of the legs, but you have the knees bent here. Then begin to fold forward. So again, that kind of sets up that not only lengthening, but strengthening in the back side of the body. Beautiful. Again, you can hold this for at least 5 breaths. All right, you go ahead and release it. Bend into the knees for a moment. I'm going to show you one more. So this one is Ardha Gomukhasana. So we're going to do Gomukhasana or cow-faced pose, but we're going to do it one leg at a time. So again, I'm going to sit up on a block here, but you don't have to, or up on a blanket. So we're going to start by having the left leg out long. Now, one thing of note here, this is a really great hamstring stretch, but if you have knee issues and your knee hyperextends, that's a problem here. I don't want your knee to go down to the earth. So for some people, I don't have to do this. My knees are okay with this. It doesn't cause them to hyperextend. But if you start to feel that having the pressure of one leg on top of the other causes that hyperextension, what it means is that you need to slide something underneath the knee. And it can even be like a rolled up t-shirt. So I'll show that really quick as we're doing this, just so that it's important that you don't hyperextend that knee. So you'd have some kind of padding underneath that knee, and then you're gonna cross your right leg over the top of your left. And I'm not being fancy and mirroring, so I will look opposite of you. It doesn't matter what side you do, because you're gonna do both sides, even though I won't. So the knee is pointing forward. The shoelace part of the foot is down, but it doesn't matter how close your heel is into your body. So we're trying to stack the knees here. So this actually usually targets the outer hip. We take it on both sides at once, so I would tuck my left leg back. But when you take it one side at a time, you can turn it into a little bit more of a hamstring stretch. But again, you're making sure that you've got padding underneath that knee if you need it. Now I don't need it, so I'm gonna move it to the side. From here, if you're not feeling it yet, flex those toes in towards your face. If you're still not feeling it, again, lengthen the spine and walk the hands forward. That's when you'll start to feel it. Now for me, I feel the target area here is right underneath my glute. So this gets into my high hamstring, like where it attaches to the back of the pelvis. So the more you lengthen your spine and the more you fold, the more you'll take it into that hamstring. So this can be a really great hamstring stretch. Like I said, I want to be really careful with your knees. So just make sure that the pressure on the knee is okay. So there should be, like, I can stick my hand underneath my knee right now, the back of my knee. There's space there. If there is no space, that means you're hyperextending. That is bad. So put something underneath there for me, please. And again, you can hold this for as long as feels good. I love this posture. A lot of people hate it, but know if you hate it, it probably means that you need it. So try to hold it for at least 5 breaths. And then releasing it, just lean back. You can use your arms to help you, or you can just uncross the legs. Definitely shake them out. In between the sides, always take a little bit of time just to kind of release lactic acid that might have built up. And then you would take that same shape on the second side. All right, I think that's quite enough for today. Those are some things you can do to lengthen your hamstrings. So hopefully that will help you in your journey to perhaps going down to touching your toes. But remember, even if you never reach your toes, it is not about the destination. It is more about the journey and what we learn along the way. That is the true yoga. Namaste.